Alright, you guys, this is the result of an epic comeback. We are going to have a new episode on Edgar Degas today with the learning from the masters. An epic comeback because let's look at this. So I had a poll asking you guys who you would want to have in this new episode, and look at this. It was a pretty tight match. It was a race. I was expecting, to be honest, to talk about Velasquez. I was trying to start searching things on Velasquez, like interesting things to say about Velasquez and all. And you guys put Degas back in the game. So today we are going to talk about Edgar Degas, which is going to be an awesome episode. A really interesting painter and artist in general. Hello, Gede. So yeah, pretty excited to talk about Degas. Let's have a look. Let me check if the stream is running properly. All right. Hello, McPollins. Okay, apparently it is. All right, so yeah, Degas, so many things to talk about, really, in terms of composition, color, like just subject matter for his entire work, and such an amazing artist, such an amazing and an artist that's so hard to define and describe, that really that's what make it interesting, and really cool. All right, so yep, so you guys, if you are not familiar yet with how to vote, if you missed today's vote, or let's say if you're disappointed that Velasquez or Van Dyck, for that matter, is not in this episode, next time they will be there again, so you can vote again and hopefully help them win the race this time. So you just go to my channel, you just click on my name, and you'll probably be directed on this home page, and there's a new tab called Community that you want to check out. So when you go there, you have all the things that I post. So it works better on smartphones, I have to say. It's not really made for a computer, but works good. Salut Béranger. All right, so Degas. Today we are going to talk about Degas, but first, a mandatory advertisement for my own channel. So you guys seem to love the oil painting for beginners course, so it's pretty awesome. It's doing really well, and you guys seems to be really appreciating. If you want to take some of these teachings that I give in this video and put it even further, you have this practical guide to oil painting techniques and materials. Again, all the information you want about oil painting. So if you really want to be serious and learn a lot about oil painting, so this is really for you. And that's it. Sorry, my boss is really pushing me to do this advertising. Sorry, being that I'm my own boss, so I'm really hard on myself. Hi Asia, hi Luis, hey Mike. All right, so let's talk about Degas. So what would you say Degas is? How would you categorize Degas? Like, as an artist, like what movement, what would you say about him if you had to define or describe this this very specific artist? What would you say? Would you say he's an impressionist? Maybe, because I mean, it doesn't appear there. Let's have a look at many works. You might say, well, clearly this type of painting. Sorry, my internet is very slow today. And Google Art Project, Arts and Culture has a hard time loading. Okay, so we're gonna probably switch to offline. Alright, so you might say, well, this looks pretty much Impressionists in the approach. And you'd be right, like, I mean, there's a real sense of light, a real sense of vivid colors, brightness, and light all over the place. So you'd be right saying, oh, Impressionist, yeah, sounds like a good point. Thing is, Degas always refused to be called an Impressionist, and himself was very strongly reluctant to be called an Impressionist, because he didn't at all have any of the working process that the Impressionists had. Like the Impressionists, the real novelty was working on site, like working plein air, working spontaneously, just picking up the colors in the paint tube, which was a novelty at the time. I mean, the paint tubes were a novelty at the time of the Impressionists, because before that, you couldn't take your paint out of the studio like this, not that easily. You had to mix it yourself, put it in little like bags, or it was a pain. And the paint tubes was a true innovation that helped the Impressionists get out of the atelier, which was really awesome. But Degas was never really like this, and he was not a like spontaneous on-site kind of guy. He was much more a guy that used to plan a lot of what he does, what he did, and you don't really see a lot of planning in how spontaneous his work looks. But there was a lot of thoughts, a lot of work, and a lot of studio work with what he did. Again, Degas was not really an Impressionist in the sense that he had a great reverence for the academy. Like, he was a real draftsman. First of all, he was so he had his novelty, but he was classically trained at the highest level. Not necessarily the highest level, but his classical drawing skills were just on point. I don't know if there's an example of that right here, but you can see academies by Degas. There, you can see some of them. Academies. So these were really the classical teaching studies that they were doing in the artistic education at the time. So, wow, my internet is slow. Sorry, guys. So it gives me time to look at the chat and what are you saying. So seventh, that's so hard to say. Sorry, but the th and the s next to each other, I'll never get it. I'll never get it right. Seventh son, how are you doing? My feeling is that he was a realist to Impressionist, and that's a good point, Mike. Actually, he was influenced both by the realist in the subject matter. Well, the page is still loading. All right, so I think we're switching to offline. Oh, it's going to be annoying. A page is still loading. I don't know what's happening. Do you guys have good connection right now? Can you hear me well now? Because it doesn't feel like it. I'm just checking because my internet is, or either is the website. I don't know if my internet is to blame right here. Really weird. All right. I'm coming in clear. All right. Thank you, Joel. All right. So that's maybe the Google Arts and Culture web page that's having trouble keeping up. This is the Google Arts and Culture website. So normally it works really well. Oh, no, it doesn't work. So, all right, I'm just going to pick up my file right there and start working. So, okay. So as you can see, Degas was a well-trained artist. So that's my point, and this is one thing that makes Degas different from the Impressionists. Not to say that the Impressionists were not well-trained in the classical arts, but Degas was really serious about it, and all his time, even at like mid-career, when his style was already kind of there. He was still copying old masters, so and he was still taking a lot from copying old work, and that's very different from the Impressionists. The Impressionists were all in the avant-garde, in painting plein air and all. Degas was really about experimenting in all shapes and forms. Everything that was new and original was good enough for Degas. Alright, Seven Sun says Google Art works slow in my PC too. Alright, so I think it's just their server. So no worries, I've got plenty of Degas on my computer, so I'll just send them through GIMP right there. So yeah, I'm gonna just close this this right here. Sorry, got to just boom. Okay, and just no, don't want to do that. Sorry. Just gonna go like this. No. All right. So I don't have the annoying thing, and just sorry because I'm going through my computer, so I wanted to uncrop the thing. So just a moment. Just a moment. So just trying to crop the thing. Oop, resize. It's annoying because I really wanted the Alright, I was really looking for the ability to zoom on the Google Art website. So, alright. Salut Jocol. Luis D'Antonio says, "Oh no, it's happening now." What? Oh, it's happening now. Yeah, okay. I can see my network is slow. Sanu Das, where are you? You're kind of in limbo right now. You're in another dimension because we can see what you're writing. So if you're there, please join and try to make it work. All right. So Degas was classically trained, and this is what makes him different from the Impressionists. And another thing, if you have a look at this, for instance, well, this is another example of a painting that was really making Degas something other than Impressionists. And in this sense, Mike was really quite on point when he suggested that Degas was midway between realism and Impressionism. And as you can see, with this kind of painting, you have something that really takes some of the themes and subject matters of realism, like normal people, like snapshots of society in the 19th century. And why is Degas so hard to classify? Really, I think it's because he was fully committed to a time of artistic revolution. Really, like, he was in a time, first of all, of social revolution with the industrial society and all, like all these things, like there was a revolution in society, in French society, but all over the industrialized world, there was a strong movement in modernity was started already. And Degas was right in the middle of this. So he had two choices. So either do like Bouguereau and stick to the academic world and stick to, stick to like the traditional approach, because he was really a fan of the traditional approach, or go into more avant-garde things. And he was pushing to the extremes all the possibilities that his time was striving for. Really, he was looking for new ways to experiment with art, and really he was in the core of this artistic revolution. He was one of the most, I think, strongest elements in the revolution that led to all the art that happened after that, the avant-gardes that happened after the Impressionists. So, yeah. All right, Elena. Hello, Elena. You should be able to just okay. Adjust the quality, lower quality, see if that helps. Yeah, that might help. So let's one of my favorites, when you see subject matter like this, you can almost see where Degas' head was at. And yeah, this is really something that I have to agree, Mike. Like, this is really something that a realist painter could have painted. But like, if you take a strong, like, core realist painter like Courbet, for instance, like Courbet would have done this with a very crude, dread, like, vision, like gray, black, brown, and put a real misery on this lady. But right now, I mean, there's something very emotional about this, as well as sad in a way. Let me try to zoom. In this look, there is really something kind of sad. And so she's drinking absinthe. I don't know if it's a word in English, absinthe. And as you can notice, the glass is full. Well, because people that drink too much never are stuck with an empty glass. That's the meaning. The glass is full because, well, it has to be. She doesn't feel particularly happy to be drinking, but apparently she couldn't have an empty glass. And you have kind of the archetype of the 19th century poet right there, just next to her. And this lady looks very touching, and the face and the expression is so simple and so successful. The quality, is not as good as on the Google Art project, but the quality of this look of this pair is just so emotional and touching, and so lifelike, really, that it's something else. But I don't think that a realist artist would have depicted this lady with such a vibrant quality. Like the realism, especially in French realism, was really making things look very boring, very traditional, boring. Not you couldn't say that Courbet makes things very boring, but that one thing's for sure, he's making things look very brown. But Degas makes things look very luminous, which is a great quality, and I think this is why the label between realism and impressionism is a great. And if you think about it, the simple fact that you cannot classify an artist just proves how strongly unique and strongly geniusy this artist was. Geniusy is now a word. Yep. Well, familiar with absinthe. How would you say that in English? Degas was so close to Manet, and he somewhat to his style, or so close to Manet, and he was somewhat to in his style. Okay, yeah, you could say that there was a strong influence in the two knew themselves, knew each other really well, and were very close friends. Yeah, I think friends. No, Joel, that's exactly the point. So Joel is saying, I wonder if the two subjects knew each other. They are sitting close together, but seem like strangers, and that's exactly the point. You're absolutely right on this point. They're just move this. They're sitting next to each other, but they probably don't know each other. We don't know exactly the story. So one great thing about Degas is you can look at pretty much all his paintings and have composition 101, because Degas' style. So this is the full picture. Degas' style was. Let me try to. So where's shapes? I don't know how to draw a line, a simple line. I want to draw a line, but not this. I need my my palette tool. I use Photoshop most of the time, so I'm just looking for a way to draw lines. No, not this. Draw shapes. I don't know. So we'll just use this. But I'm gonna have to do this freehand, so forgive me for that. Alright, that's ugly. Sorry, I wanted to have a look at the composition. I'm not super familiar with this GIMP right here, so it's too thin. Right. So basically, you have all these lines. So basically, your vision is dragged away. So this is what these lines do. They push your look on the right side, right there. And this is what it does. This perspective is pushing you there. And it's almost like you kind of have to ignore this lady. This lady's not exactly in the middle. The middle would be here. Sorry, I'm just trying to. I'll be going for no. I'm not really familiar with this version. Now, I generally use Photoshop, but I don't have Photoshop on this computer, so you'll have to forgive me. Nope. Okay, I can draw lines like this. All right. So the middle would be somewhere here. So she's kind of out of the frame, and this is all empty, which is kind of weird, you'd say. Why paint emptiness? But this is what's this is the genius. This this emptiness right there is almost as important. And as you say, the fact that this guy is also looking in this direction, following the perspective, makes it so that she's so isolated, even though she's almost in the middle, right in the middle. This creates such imbalance, which is a good thing to remember, guys, is that whenever you're painting or drawing a composition of whatever style you want, the characters are not the only thing to consider, because you have characters right here. She's right in the middle, but she's so isolated. It's not only the characters, it's also where do they look. So because this guy is looking completely out of the frame, even though he's so close to her, like in real life, even though he's so close, in reality, he feels out of the frame almost. You could erase the guy. But this is even more genius, because the guy is there, but he's not there, is looking away. It could be out of the frame. You could just erase this guy and have the painting like this, and she would look as isolated as she does. But this is even more genius, because you have a guy standing there and he's almost out, which is totally genius in terms of composition. See, this is funny because normally elements right in the center like this, elements that are the center of focus, are not isolated like this, but everything in the composition force you to sort of look at her and just like you're walking to a bar and you see a sad lady like staring in no specific direction, and you're like, all right, okay, let's move on, and you ignore that lady. And that's almost the same thing, except that this is a painting where she is the center of focus, so you cannot ignore her, but yet the composition forces you to move on with your life. And this is such genius. All right, let's have a look at what you're saying, because I'm talking way too much right now. Absinthe Liquor was in the band after a while. Yeah, it was, because it was really strong and it was really messing with many people's heads. So it was banned. It was kind of the legal drug of the 19th century at one point, because too much absinthe would really mess with your head and create strong mental and physical illness and disease. Supposedly to counter its effect on sales of grapes for wine production, But again, absinthe was famous for being the drunk poet's drink, and all the drunks would just get really high with absinthe. Hello, Vox. There's a zigzag patterns that lead you to the features. So let's see. The zigzag, yeah. Exactly, you have lines that cut all over the place. So let's have a look at the zigzag. And this one, yeah, I don't know why he's there, but this is probably to create count. So there's line crossing all over but B. And the drink is in a very strong position right now. You can ignore this, but you cannot ignore the drink. Pretty cool in terms of composition. This is probably one of the best. There's so many things to say just about this. You have patterns right there. You have many cool things to see in this painting. Let's have a closer look. If we can. Just the reflection is also great. The motifs, the economy of brushstrokes is amazing. There's no fancy refinement. Everything is said. That's an amazing thing to see. So close yet so far, says SP Moon Arts. Yeah, exactly. And hi, by the way. I think I didn't say hi. Hello, Carrie Jones. Makes the woman more isolated. The elephant in the room nobody wants to talk about, says Luis Antonio. Exactly. If you like recently, yeah, it's good. Okay. It's a great painting. There's a story there, and this is a very touching painting. I really like this one. All right, let's It's funny because Degas is really he was so original in composition and so much things that, well, today it feels normal, but at the point this type of composition was a revolution. I tell you that this was a revolution. And why was this such a revolution? Because before that, photography did not exist. So basically, whenever you had to paint a subject, well, the main thing was, of course, all right, you want to paint a dancer, so you put the dancer in the middle, like put the dancer in the center of attention. The focus is supposed to be on the dancer, so you frame the dancer properly. All right, you want to paint a musician, so you have to put the musician in the center of focus. You have to put them somewhere where you can see them correctly. You have to have them face the viewer. If you want to paint musicians, an orchestra, well, you have to put them on your painting and frame them the right way. Otherwise, it's not a painting about musicians. It's just a mismatched. You missed your point, right? That was the idea before. Like, I have to paint a musician, so of course I'm gonna put my musician right there in the middle, and the instruments right there. Let's say. Well, here you have nothing like this. Nothing. The musicians are all cut off from the frame. The dancer is not really even in focus. It's blurry. It's blurry. Come on, you can be serious. So today we see that, well, it's okay, because we all have our cell phones and we take pictures of things all the time. We know how not framing the subject properly is supposed to be like. If you were like sitting just right next to the orchestra and taking a picture with your cell phone, you'd probably have something like this. But let's put yourself in the shoes of a 19th century artist. That's pretty revolutionary right now. I'm telling you, you're right now, you're witnessing what revolution was in the world of art. Because this was the key in terms of how the mindset of artists was going to be driven for the next centuries. So artists right now, with Degas and after Degas, were not only focused on the subject matter, but on the painting. So he wants to make an interesting painting, like as an idea for a work of art. He doesn't want to depict the subject. He wants to make things look interesting. He wants to experiment. He wants to share a view, kind of a snapshot. Well, we know what a snapshot is today. Like, everyone knows what a snapshot is supposed to be. But let's think as a 19th century person. You wouldn't never imagine how to make a painting like this. So what changed? I tell you what changed. And Vox, you actually have something right there. I'm telling you what has changed in the 19th century and in Degas' head. That's photo. Photography came into the world. And that changed the entire world. And of course, the invention of photography was a huge revolution in the world of art, and still is today. And Degas was fully aware of that, and he was a fan of photography. He would use photography. Many times he would have lots of studies, lots of photography. He used photography. I cannot say if he used photography on this one, to be correct. But the thing is that he was already a forerunner of the aesthetics of photography before it even became a thing. There was no real, there was, it's weird. I could talk for days about the invention of photography in the 19th century. And it's weird how the first photographers were actually trying to think about it. The first photographers were actually trying to replicate paintings. So they used an aesthetic that resembled paintings a lot. The first photography, this was in a studio, in a set, with drapery, with various elements that was supposed to mention the work of a painter. So the very first portrait photographers were doing things like this. Some were more experimental. And next to these guys, you had Degas, that was already making the aesthetics of photography putting it back into painting and making it something completely different. And this is amazing. Amazing, really. Yeah, I think he used photos. That's sure. So zoom out, please. All right. This is all right. This is the entire frame. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's have a look at what you're saying, Luis D'Antonio. But what if the individuals weren't the subject, but the whole sensation of the event was? Yeah, you're exactly right, Luis D'Antonio. And that's exactly the point of Degas. This was so revolutionary at the time to paint things like this, like setting a mood. After the Impressionists, it became kind of a, all right, we get it now, but do not forget that Degas was before the Impressionists movement, really. He was kind of there when it happened, but he was there before and not after, though. So did he use a photo? He sometimes used photos. Sorolla, so user, okay, I'm not going to read your username because it's just numbers, but you say Sorolla was used to work with photography and Giovanni Boldini wrote some denigrations about him. Well, Degas was kind of received in a very mixed, with very mixed feelings as well. Many people didn't know what to do with this kind of painting at the time. Like, it was so original that people were not used to things looking this way. All right. From camera obscura to photography to digital to OL to virtual reality, probably. Better use my own eyes and abilities. And I think that what you're saying has a strong resonance with Degas' work right there. Because photography was just there to set the composition, but once it came to how to treat and deal with colors, deal with impressions, it was all in his head. Like, you couldn't replicate colors this way with photography at the time. You can now, or you can have digital imaging to work a photography to look like this. But it's the work of a genius to make that. Even if he used a black and white photo, which is probable, he used it sometimes, not all the time, sometimes he used it. So it's a well-known fact that he used photography, but he could never have a photography that came close to this, even in the design. But the thing is that photography, you can crop, you can make adjustments, and you change the mindset of how you frame your subject. This is really a photographic style of framing. Even though at the time, remember, the most photographers were not going for this type of framing. They were just going for normal subject in the middle, like, old photographies, old portraits and all. But Degas really made something else. And yeah, this is a work of genius. Now I think that it works so well. The blurry lines of the background of this scene, of this stage. Sorry, it has such vivid and and bright colors, and it's almost like, you know, sometimes when you have like pictures of a guy dreaming, and you have a bubble above his head, and you can see the dream in a like little cloud above his head, his or her head. Well, it's almost like this. It's almost like they have a dream like in their head, and it's all happening right there. Like, you know, this little cartoon thing. You could think of it like this, right? And it works really well. It works really well because it's almost like they're dreaming of what's happening. They're deep into the world of music, but what they're dreaming about is above their head, kind of. I mean, the composition is so strong. It's probably one of the greatest paintings of at least of the 19th century, right there. All right. By the way, so Aspi says, by the way, Degas didn't really consider himself an impressionist, but had tied with some artists. He was friend with Marie Cassatt, one of the few women impressionists, for example. Yeah, he was kind of the part of the gang, but not really as well. He was all over the place, and that's what makes him such an amazing artist, I think. All right, I can imagine I'm in war with the fine drawing. Same idea. Okay, my network is slow. Okay, he was both impressionist realism in his painting. So both impression and realism in his painting. That's perfectly right. Mike says Degas also had influences from Japanese prints and their Noten views. Yeah, we can talk about this later, and that's perfectly true. I think he had influenced of all the visual things he could gather in the 19th century. So photography, traditional art, things from the Orient that were really fashionable at the time. There was a period in the 19th century where the Orient was really the thing. Like, it was a time where people were really trying to have collections of various Oriental things. All right, so let's have a look at this composition. So right there, not even in the middle. Because why not? Because why not? Not even in the middle, not even in the center. And you have big void right there. Big empty space. Because why not? Creates imbalance. And this looks exactly how someone would just frame a picture, like at the show. Like you have your cell phone and you're like, oh, okay, I like this, I'm gonna frame it, boom. But think about how you would get to have a composition like this at this time. This is really to me, this is so so groundbreaking that yeah, so great. So next you have the girls right there, just part of the background. They're not really doing anything special, they're just waiting. She's probably just saluting, and the effect of the light, there has to be some light right there. Oh yeah, and by the way, I forgot to say that other than photography, the innovation of the 19th century was also electricity, and Degas was one of the first to convey a realistic impression of artificial light, and this shows in this painting, and I really like this. Personally, I'm really a fan of this type of things. So, well, think about this. The Impressionists were all about natural light, natural daylight. Things have to look natural. It has to look like real sunlight, real sun rays, real landscape. And Degas was just, no, things have to look however they appear to my eye and however they impress me personally. And that's just amazing, an amazing feature to think like this at this time. Simplicity of shapes and woodblock painting, yeah, but it's so hard to get to a composition like this. I mean, there's not even anything to say. Everyone knows and sees how the composition works. There's nothing hidden. There's no geometric shapes. Very strong depth of field. Just like photography, almost. Like, they're much less blurry than she is, and she's much less blurry than they are, because they're further away, just like in photography. I don't know. Hello, polar bear. So yeah, Degas really liked the Japanese prints. He was a collectioner of. He had a collection of prints. There's even a painting of a collectioner or a retailer. I don't know, with where you can actually see the actual prints. All right. Hello, Zion. Sorry, Lucian Freud didn't win. He was in the poll. I did a poll, and Degas went for the win. Unexpectedly, after Velasquez had the lead for a full, almost an entire day. So yeah. So how do I vote? Well, you have to vote next time, because right now it's over. I'm not gonna. But you go on my channel. You click on my. You click on my face on my channel, like the little circle. Then you go to a tab called Community, and you have the poll. Or if you're on your smartphone, it should give you notification if you have all notification turned on. Didn't see the poll. Yeah, sorry. Alright, Vox. Lightness above, dark heavy orchestra below. Yeah, exactly. That's also a very impressive thing. You could cut off and have two separate pictures, sort of. It's really something. I was referring to the Japanese influence of art, not how it related to this piece. All right. Yeah. Well, I was not referring to any Japanese influence in this piece either. I don't think there is any, really. But you can find Japanese influence in other work. My teacher told me that Degas only painted ballerinas to get close to girls. No, he didn't only paint ballerina. But ballerina was such an awesome subject that there was a lot to paint about. Like half of his work is ballerina. Okay. Joke. All right, so the prince. Here you have a portrait. I have not. If someone can check the story behind this portrait, I'd love to have it because I completely forgot. And since I'm not on the internet, I'm not on the Google Art Track to check it. I can check it, but it's gonna take some time. So if you want to check some facts about this. About this painting, about this prince collector. Okay, I found something, but let's see what it says. Because I forgot the backstory. There's probably one. So apparently, so there's cheap, outmoded prints, colored lithographs by Pierre-Joseph Redouté, and fashionable. This was the fashionable thing. The Japanese prints, and the Tang Dynasty horse right there. Apparently. All right, so you have influence right there, so like it's right in there. You have more subtle influence of this type of art right there is clearly depicted in the painting, so nothing really hidden in terms of message. You can see pretty much what it wants to show. And the character is also very emotional, very like he's doing something. Like he can have, like the annoying guy that takes a picture of you when you're doing something like mundane, not really special at all. And you're like, why are you taking a picture of me right now? I'm just doing the dishes. Why do you even mind taking a picture? So that's exactly what Degas did, like taking a snapshot. And that's something, like he's reaching for something just right in the middle. So it's very, very realistic in some way. Like it's right in the middle of doing something. All right, so you have the notifications turned on. Yeah, I tried on my own phone and didn't give me any notification with my second account, so I don't know. What's the name of the painting? I think this is called The Collector. The Collector of Prints. It's an oil on canvas, 1866. So composition is very very basic, not as strong as the last one. The last two, I should say. But still pretty good. Sorry, the reproduction is not great. You can see a lot of the the glare right now, but still pretty strong composition. I really like the simplicity of the shapes. Really cool. Really like it. Really like this one as well. I think I like the expression. So, a good thing about looking at Degas' work is you can never find two pieces that are exactly the same. And earlier when I was talking about Degas' magic rendition of artificial light, well, there you go. Enjoy this wonderful painting. So how is it called? It's probably cantatrice, or I don't know, like singer, opera singer, operette maybe. And just it could be done right now. It could be done today. I could go for artificial lights that are looking similar to this one. I don't know if I could do that exactly, but it could be an option. Let me just check a few things about this. Alright, I've got various reproductions that are a little bit more yellow. This one is very pinkish. I don't know which one is the best. There's many of them. Sorry, and I think it has kind of matters in terms of reproduction. I don't know which one is supposed to be the right one. I have a version that's kind of pinkish, but I'm looking at other reproductions and they're a lot more yellowish. So I don't know if it's the work of the photographers. Some photographers that publish on the internet are not really pinpoint accurate with color correction, and it gives some weird results. So I was just checking, but apparently I think this version is the one I would trust the most. I don't know. All right, so this is pastel, and this is awesome, and this is absolutely great and amazing, and the simplicity, as well as the visual impression of the light coming from down low from the stage, and the strong highlights right there. Oops, let me just go. Strong highlights with just a few stripes, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. And that's artificial light for you. And this is something that the Impressionists didn't do at the time. This was not something anyone else was looking for. But Degas was already very interested in artificial light, because everything that was novel and everything that was new and original was good enough for him. Again, look at this framing. Like people out of the frame almost. It's almost like the hand is as much of the subject as the lady singing, and maybe the light and the scenery and the mood and the atmosphere of the entire scene is the thing, or maybe just the energy, because you have a strong channeling energy that really goes this way. You have some energy of pulling you out, like pulling you up. Sorry. It's almost like everything is driving you up. See? I know it's a weird thing, but it's really pushing you. Woo. Just like the sound of this lady. And this is really a strong energy in this drawing. So pastel. Degas was very interested in pastel. Not for any specific reason, because he was interested in everything that was available at the time. He was interested in photography, he was interested in sculpture, he was interested in pastel, he was interested in lithography, he was interested in Japanese prints. All the things that were a mean to represent the world and have a fresh look at the genuine new world that was opening for the people at the time with electricity. This was a brand new world, a fresh new world. And you'll have to wait for a while before someone after Degas comes with such a great visual rendition of artificial light, of electricity. It's going to be a while before someone comes close to this type of lighting and visual impression. Because the Impressionists were all about plein air, which they did wonderfully, of course, but, well. Alright, let's have a look at the chat, because it's been a while. Find something is off in this painting. Well, because she's singing so loud, even the inside of her mouth is lit up. The face is stretched. Yeah, this is a weird angle, but that could be a very well represented thing. Or whatever, like it's just about the energy. You could almost hear the voice, you can hear the sound. It's like very high pitched noise. She's not such a great singer. She probably has an annoying voice. You can really feel that. Yeah, you know, like the crazy opera singer. Probably the shape of her face, even if it feels distorted. I think if you sing with this kind of high energy, it's probably going to look similar. Look at the texture of this how would you call that? Look at this texture. Let's just say it like this. Yeah, there's something weird. And you know, there's always something weird when light comes from not from up, not from above, but from downwards. Sorry, I don't know exactly how to say. When light comes down up, I don't know. Well, you know what I mean. So there's always something weird, and you always have, like, you know, people making funny things, like when they go like this to scare you, like, ooh, because it always feels weird when light comes from there. Like faces always like, look at this, ha ha ha. It's always kind of weird in a way. We are not programmed to see faces lit this way, because the light always comes from above. Looks like her hair changes into the fur. Is it not tulle? I think it's kind of furry material, I would say. There would be just so much to say about Degas. And the overall artwork is so original that alright, so this one is called Place de la Concorde, which is a place in Paris. It's an oil on canvas, if I'm not mistaken. (1875). And you want that dog. It looks kind of funny. Let me see that dog. So of course you see the strong yellow element in this composition. You see the characters, as always in Degas' work, kind of out of the set, really, kind of moving, doing their things. It's not a super strong composition like the previous ones, but it shows how original Degas' style was. How he always wanted to find new ways of representing the world. Really, not one of. We haven't seen a clear style. You could recognize a Degas from anything else, I think. I could, at least. But like, if you go from this to this to this to this to this to this, I mean, nothing is really common. He was experimenting so much that it's hard to find a stylistic common denominator in his work. He was all over the place. He was really a man of his time. His time was a time of great revolution in the art world, as well as the industrial world, in the political world. Everything was transforming around him. So, and he was following this. He was a man of this time. What I like about Degas is that this is modernity, but of the 19th century, which is, it could be something that a painter could paint that today and would never be even called kitsch or whatever. You could paint that and people would say, oh, well, it's nice modern painting. So just the hat and the hair and the dress and just this make it look kind of outdated, but the rest of the painting is very modern. You could paint that. Same, likewise, you could paint something like that today with saying, well, I want to have something to say about artificial light and all. This is the modernity of this painter. Alright, see you, SP Moon. Alright. All right, so let's have a look at another one. We're not really learning much. It's just me enjoying. Oh, the reproduction is not good. Sorry. Yeah, the reproduction is not very good. But this is also a very nice picture. So you can see immediately within this composition lots of emptiness right here, lots of emptiness right here, and a strong green element so basically it's going just like if light is coming here in this direction. These windows do not really count that much in terms of composition. They do not bring anything other than more light. And this window is really the center of the composition because this window brings the accent, the color accent. So right here it's all in the lines, in the perspectives, just almost like the same type of perspective we had, like getting almost the same type of perspective as in the lady with the glass, like pushing you kind of towards the window, sort of. But then again, you want to have a look at the girls, so it's not as strongly. The look is not drifting as much. The floor is this one is a bit weirdly tilted. No, I don't think so. I think it's perfectly fine. Maybe you mean this, the perspective right there on the well, not sure. Not sure. I think what gives you the impression that something is tilted is probably the presence of the dancers, and this the character right here that cuts off the shape and cuts off the perspective. So maybe the perspective is a little bit forced, but I'm not sure. I think it works almost like a fisheye lens, kind of pushing and seeing the entire picture. Really, just like a photography, you could have something similar like this with a very wide angle, so things are kind of distorted on the outsides. But this was something that was already well known during the Renaissance. Like during the Renaissance, they would just slightly curve the angles, the lines around the corners to kind of compensate for how we look and how our vision is kind of distorted without us really realizing it. but just like a normal lens, our eyes slightly distorted, so they had to, they would twitch, like tweak the perspective. Even during the Renaissance, this was something known. The way it shimmers all over the floor, it's very beautifully done. I agree with you. All right, so yeah, really cool painting right there. What else do we have? Let's have a look at one more. I could spend days looking at Degas. I'm telling you, I could spend days looking at Degas. Let's just wait a minute. All right. So this one, what would you say? Pastel or painting? Looks like pastel, right? Well, it's a painting. It's a painting, but you can see how Degas was influenced by almost everything new at the time. So he was using pastel a lot, and his use of pastel influenced his painting style. Likewise, he was using photography, and his use of photography influenced his painting style. He was doing a lot of drawing, and his drawings influence his painting style. Everything is mixed, influenced, and the influence are all over the place. Like, this is really a pastel-y thing. Like the tiny brush strokes, the very directional, but very vivid, marks that you can see. It looks like pastel. Sorry, the reproduction is not really perfect, so I cannot zoom very closely. But yeah, it was I mean, his paint style is in the center of many influences, and this is what makes this artist so rich. Oh, Mike says, I think the curves come from the Greek way of bowing columns to appear straight from a distance. Yeah, probably, yeah. So it makes sense that in the Renaissance they would find this again. And well, I didn't know about this going back all the way back to the Greeks, but I believe you on this one, because it sounds really like something the Greeks would figure out. Interesting. So the Renaissance did take it, find it again, and use it. Degas, maybe something characteristic of his use of color, close harmonies in warm and colds. I don't know if it's that characteristic, because you can find many. I've just chosen the ones that I prefer. You can find many paintings that are a lot more gray or brownish, but the harmonies are always there, though. You have to say that. But if you look at this one, for instance, I mean, this one is almost grisaille entirely, no color. So what was he doing with this? We don't know. Maybe it's just an underpainting though. I don't know. Maybe it's just an underpainting. Feels like it. But the difference between that and that, you can still feel how it's Degas, but you can still don't believe really that something is related between the two. And the use of color in this one is so bold, like not even the Impressionists would dare painting something like this. This is something you would see more in the Expressionists and not the Impressionists. So that tells you how Degas was really ahead in many of the 19th century. You'd have to wait for someone like Van Gogh to paint with such vivid colors like this. Not exactly like this, of course, but you'd have to wait for the post-Impressionists. The Impressionists would not even probably paint something so overly chromatic, because this is exaggerated a lot. Right here, it's not even a real shape. So this is not a great impression. It's funny, right? How he was experimenting a lot, really. Was it scambling mainly? Yeah, probably. There's probably some scambling. At least there's some colors that were painted on over dry paint to have this kind of stuck feeling, like it looks almost like it was all it doesn't really look wet on wet, which is what gives this kind of pastelish look. Not every part is wet on wet. This is what I mean. Reminds me more of drawing. Yeah, it reminds us of. It reminds, I think, everyone of pastel. Really, it feels like a pastel. And the flatness, as you say, is probably a characteristic of pastel, where you want to go more for chromatic effects rather than volumes and shapes. Yeah, the ribbon in the hat, no real definition in terms of volume, mainly color. And it's the center of it's right in the center of the entire canvas, which is you put an undefined shape in the center of a canvas in the 19th century. That's really something new. No one had seen that before. Or maybe, but still very, very original. All right. All right, you guys. That's 1.5 hours of the delight that is Edgar Degas. So again, thank you very much for watching. So next time, if you want to vote, so remember to go into, alright, so go to my channel. So this is here. You go to my channel, you go in community, and you'll have a poll right there, so you can vote next time to pick up your favorite artist. This one is not working anymore, so I'll delete that. But look at this. 192 votes. You guys were really there. really there on this one. Really cool to have you guys interacting this way. Really cool to see that I can interact without the need to go to Facebook, because I'm not good at Facebook. I'm not really good at Facebook. I'm just never there. So it's a good thing, because I'm always on YouTube though. So if I can interact like this, so look for my post. I'll not harass you with posts. It's going to be very occasional whenever I have something important to say. So the important thing I want to say right now is that you guys are awesome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching this. And you guys take care and have fun painting. And I see you on the next one. Have fun, everyone, and bye.